Next game, Giants at the Bears. The Bears opened up -5.5. It's still -5.5. The line hasn't moved at all. So who do you like in this game?
I like the Giants a lot. I mean, we talked a little bit about the Giants earlier when we were discussing the Steelers pick, but the Giants played much better than the score indicates against the Steelers. They had trouble running the ball, but that was against a great run defense. Daniel Jones had that killer interception on what looked like it could have been a game-tying drive or one that cut the lead to 3. So I think that they're better than people are letting on, and I don't get why the Bears are favored by this much. They barely beat Detroit in their decimated secondary. They had just 6 points before the fourth quarter. Are we really ready to trust them as 5-point favorites? Like, that spread also, I'm not huge on implied spreads, but this spread implies that they're only like a half a point to a point worse than the Steelers, like, as a team. And I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think the Giants will have a much better time fighting with the Bears. I think they'll get their run game going a little bit more, which will balance their offense. And their defense held up very well in the first half against the Steelers. Big Ben eventually figured out how to break them down. But I think with Trubisky, the Bears are going to have a tougher time doing that. And with Allen Robinson seemingly unhappy with his situation there, you got to wonder how bought into this game is he going to be, or will they trade him? Like, that's a possibility too. So I think everything for me is pointing Giants plus 5.5 here. I have them down as 4 units. I just thought the Bears should be like a 2-point home favorite at most. Like, I could have even seen this game being a pick 'em. So I think we're getting a ton of line value here.
I'm glad you said pick 'em, because that was my spread that I came up with, like, pick 'em. And then I saw I make my lines before I look at the actual lines. So I saw a pick 'em. I made a pick 'em, but in my head I'm like, they're going to give the Bears a little bit of credit. So I thought it was going to be like 2, maybe 2.5. And I saw 5.5. I'm like what is going on here? I don't understand. Like what people are thinking, making the spread so high. Last year, these two teams played in Chicago, and I believe it was a 19-14 game. The Bears won, and now the Giants are a lot better than they were last year, and the Bears, I think, are worse than they were last year. So, like, why is the spread 5.5? It just makes no sense. The computer model, or DVOA, says it should be -2.5, so that matches it. I think if this line were +6 and Joe Judge wasn't a first-year head coach, I think this might be my pick of the month, because I think the Bears stink. They can't really block that well. Trubisky's horrible. He got lucky last week with those 3 corners being out for Detroit. I think he's going to be worse. And the Giants' pass defense isn't as bad as people think it is. And then the Bears' defense isn't what it used to be. It's still very good. It's not great anymore. They just lost a few players. They had trouble covering tight ends, so Evan Ingram could have a nice game. It's just that, my biggest hang up is the Joe Judge thing. Like, what if he makes some more mistakes? Like, what if he botches a challenge that should be in challenge? But even still, like, this line is just way off. So I'm definitely going to be betting the Giants here. I have it down for 3 units. If I get more courage later in the week, it might be 4.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to question the first-year head coach. But I think Judge is one who should learn from his mistakes. And he's not that anyone likes losing at the NFL level, but he's a really old school guy from everything I understand. So he's going to be really motivated to win. And I think on paper, he's going to know, like, hey, we played better than we said, it looked against Pittsburgh. Let's come out, punch these guys in the mouth, and try to get a win. So I have more faith in him than most. But I'm a big fan of this game. I think this one and the Packers game are fighting to be my top of the week for sure.
Yeah, definitely could see that. Asking if I'm going to put a half a unit on the Giants money line. I might. I did that with the Redskins. I know you did too, or maybe you had a 1 unit on the Redskins.
I ended up with 4 by accident, but my units are pretty small though. So, like, the way I count them is pretty. 4 units for me is probably like 1 unit for you.
Okay. So yeah, I think I usually like to bet 1 or 2 underdogs. I think the Giants are going to be one of them.